Now, it's important to know that while fasting refers primarily to food, there's also some other things that we can that we can fast from, which is why Catholics often talk about giving things up for Lent. So let's take a look at some suggestions for some things that we can give up during Lent. Now, the things that we choose to give up during Lent are not necessarily bad. It simply means that we're giving up something in order to make more room in our lives for Jesus. Let's take a look at some examples. These are things that you can do where you can designate a day each week, perhaps, when you'll give up one of the following and replace it with perhaps some quiet time or some prayer or doing a work of mercy or just enjoying some friendship or family time. So, for example, giving up watching TV or surfing the internet, giving up playing video games or using your cell phone or other forms of social networking, or listening to your iPod, your MP3 player. You know, the experts tell us that kids spend about 3 hours a day listening to music and about the same amount of time watching TV. It's a bit frightening. So these are good things to encourage young people as well as ourselves to give up during Lent so that we can make some space in our lives for Jesus. Now, of course, if we do have some bad habits, well, then Lent is a good time for us to give up those bad habits. Let's take a look at just a few examples. And we can give up some of these bad habits during Lent and try to replace them with good habits or virtues. So we can give up things like using foul language or gossiping, procrastinating or complaining or impulse shopping. It's all kind of things that we can do to give up some habits that may not be the best thing for us. And a good way to identify some of our bad habits is to do an examination of conscience. And then at some point during Lent, to ask for the forgiveness that comes to us in the sacrament of reconciliation, where we also receive the grace that we need to overcome our shortcomings. Now, I'd like to say just a quick word about the notion that some people have that we can cheat on Sundays during Lent. That, in other words, we can go ahead and indulge in the practices that we've given up on other days. Well, that's not quite the idea. The reason that some people think that this is true is because Sunday is the Lord's Day, and it's a day of celebration. It's not to be a day of penance or a day of fasting or mourning for our sins. So for this reason, we tend to suspend our practices of penance on Sundays during Lent. Now, of course, if you've given up a bad habit for Lent, there's really no excuse at all for indulging in that bad habit on Sundays. But if you've just suspended or I should say, what you can do is you can suspend some of the other practices of self-denial that perhaps you have chosen, as long as you do so in a non-excessive way and while trying to keep a spiritual attitude. So in fact, by suspending some of our penance on the Sundays of Lent, we actually get a little taste of the Easter joy that we're anticipating. Now, we said that the reason that we give up some things during Lent is to make room for prayer or for family time. And one suggestion I have, I think is a great way to fill that time, is with something called the meal box. Now, this is a set of 52 questions and family faith tips for getting mealtime conversations going. And you may want to consider using these on a night when your family has turned off the TV and is enjoying a simple Lenten meal of soup and bread and just get into a nice spiritual conversation. So you can visit the Loyola Press website for more information about this.